We are here to talk about launching the data stewardship in 30 days. So it's a pragmatic approach where you land on your first data win within a 4-week sprint. I'll just take a minute and let you know how I want to run this webinar, and then we'll dive in. So let's start with a few metrics, industry metrics that talk about data governance and why data governance, many of the initiatives fail, what are the key reasons. And then we'll see a broad overview of data governance, and then what is data stewardship, and then narrow down our problem statement to data quality, because so the data governance journey is a multi-year journey. We cannot achieve that in 30 days. So how we want to run this in a lean and agile fashion so that we can deliver something tangible and get a buy-in from the management to do probably a bigger engagement or maybe a full-blown implementation of data governance. And then there is a case study. We'll go through that 4-week plan a little bit detailed, and then we'll talk about a case study where we helped a healthcare customer to achieve a similar kind of work done within 1 month, and how we got a buy-in from their management to do a full-blown implementation for them. We'll go through that. And finally, we'll conclude with the key takeaways, and I'll open up the floor for questions. Yeah, let's dive in. So let's start with what does it cost, the poor data, the data quality. If you have a poor data quality, what does it cost? If you look at some industry, the info from IBM, Gartner, and Experian. So the average organizations cost per year 15.7 million. That's a very big number. And if you look at the strategic impact, so if you are a data-driven organization, you are more likely to acquire customers 23x. This is a good number. Even if it is not 23, even if it is 10x, it's very big. So the question is, can we ignore this problem? And if you look at why many data governance programs fail, so we can boil them down into 3 top reasons. One, technology first approach. So we should never pick up the technology first. We should take the problem, bring the people, set up a process, and then once you get confidence and also create a rhythm, that's when you introduce tools. This is not just for data governance, it holds good for anything if you want to build a data platform. So one of our customers whom we consulted, I think 2 months ago, so they bought a tool for their building a data platform. They played it with 1 year and then came back to us for consulting. Their main problem is it's not according to their needs. It's not supporting their needs. And then if they add a little bit more data, the cost increases. If they want to easily move to, if they want to move to other tools, their data is tied up with that platform, and they cannot come out whenever they want. It's a 1-year subscription they have to pay. So lots of problems. So don't get into tools first. Create the process, set up, bring in people, and then slowly we'll introduce tools at the right time. The second one, lack of commitment from the executive management. And the third one, trying to do or implementing the whole data governance at one go or on day one. So these are the top reasons why many data governance programs failed. It's a study done on a lot of failed initiatives. So let's take a broader look at data governance. So you will see several pillars mentioned on internet, but these are the 4 key pillars: quality, security, stewardship, and data management. These are the core pillars of data governance. And if you see at the center, so you have the technology, the people, and process. So for today, let's leave the technology aside. We don't want to talk about any kind of tools now. So whatever the tools you are currently using, you'll keep using them. Don't introduce any new tools. Don't spend any kind of money. So people are the first key, because the process and tools are as good as people. So first you have to get get a buy-in from your team. That's the first step, and then slowly introduce a rhythm, a process, and then you can think about the tools and technologies. So if you see the broader picture of data governance, these are the things you hear about. Companies, they use data in different ways, right? So first of all, everyone in the organization should know where the data is and what kind of data is available. So getting their hands on the data is a second step. First of all, if I know that there is some data, I can use that in my day-to-day operations and help the organization move forward, right? So first of all, discovery is very important, and then ownership is very important, because if you have the data is wrong, somebody needs to fix it. So if there is no ownership, nobody takes the onus of fixing it. So the similar way, these are the different kinds of problems. So are everyone is everyone reading the data in the same way, or do they have their own definitions? So these are all typical data governance problems. If you have any compliance, if you are into healthcare or food industry, so there are a lot of compliances. If you have any compliance requirements, so it's a very broad area. Okay, and a typical data governance organization looks like this. If you divide them into three blocks, right? So the top one, where you define all the policies, where you have the data governance lead. So there might be slight changes from organization to organization depending on the size, the way they work. You could introduce another data governance lead here. You have business unit heads. So these people make the policies, and these people help them execute, and especially the data stewards are very important. That doesn't mean that there will be heavy work on them. That's not what I meant. But they act like catalysts. They are very key, or they are at the center of the data governance or data stewardship. And finally, you have the business users who actually use the framework and the policies that have been set up by the committee and being executed by the working groups here. So this is how a typical organization looks like. And we don't want to get into that kind of complex organization, because we wanted to run it in a lean fashion, right? So let's take 3 to 4 people. For example, you need a sponsor. Sponsor is the one who has this business problem and trying to solve the problem. And then you have a data owner who owns the data. Sometimes they both are same. The data owner could be the sponsor. And again, data steward, the key to this, the data stewardship and governance. And we have custodians who help you with from IT side, giving permissions or whatever the small tools like the SQL tools you are using, any reporting tools you are using, and the end user who actually uses your data product and then tells you whether there are issues or whatever you need to fix. So it should be a very lean and small team, not the one we have seen in the previous slide. And again, we have seen a broader picture of data governance, but today let's bring it down to a data problem. So this is very common, right? Every organization, you might see this kind of questions or comments, whether my data is reliable, can I depend on that, which number is correct. The sales figure, I say something and the other team says something else, finance team thinks something else. So the chaos is normal in every organizations, and you know the result. You miss a lot of opportunities, you make wrong decisions and wasted time and effort. Where do you want to be? So this is the goal, right? State of confidence. So if you pick up a report, everyone in the organization should agree to those numbers. So is this report reliable? Can I make any decisions with confidence using these reports, these numbers? And also, one of the key things is clear ownership and accountability. That's very key. So this is where we want to be. If you look at this, we just narrowed down the scope of the data governance. Instead of looking at end to end, we are picking up the data quality as the problem statement for today, or maybe for our 4 week sprint. Okay, so before we dive into the plan, let's understand at a high level what is governance and stewardship. So governance is the what and why, and stewardship, it's who and how. So this is the primary reason why the data stewards, I said, they are the center of this, or very key, or they are the catalyst for this whole the engagement, what we are going to run for a as a 4 week sprint. So two important questions you need to ask: who are the data stewards and what are their responsibilities? So these are two important questions so that you know whom to pick, because you're not going to hire from outside, or you are trying to bring any vendor to, as a any resources from your vendor as a data steward. They typically be in your organization who knows the business better, and so there are certain qualities. So these are the two important questions you need to ask and pick up the right person as a data steward. And now, so we talked about the top three reasons why any data governance engagement or the projects or the programs will fail, right? So why this 30-day or this 4 week plan would succeed? So we have to keep in mind those top three reasons, right? So we are not going to introduce any costly tools, or any kind of tools at this point of time. Whatever the tools you have, you'll start using them. For example, you might be using SharePoint, you might have Excel, any for communication, you might have Teams or Slack. And to keep your any artifacts you create, like any spreadsheet, to store the data that we are going to collect within this 4 month sprint, sorry, 4 week sprint. So use any of the existing tools. If you have Box software, use that. Dropbox, use that. So whatever you are currently using, just go with them. Don't introduce any new tools, because once you are done with this 4 week sprint, the team that is working on this, they'll gain confidence and they'll be in a position to choose the right tool. If you start with the tool will define your process, you have to align your team and processes to the tool, which is not right. So what you want to do is first get your hands dirty with this, the data governance, the data stewardship, solve certain problems, create a process, and then see which tool mostly aligns with your process and your people, the way you work. So that's the better way to go. And again, in the first week itself, what you are going to do is pick up the right problem, and then you get a buy-in from your executive sponsor. That's another reason, the second topmost reason why data governance engagements fail. And the third one, we don't want to try to boil the whole ocean, right? So we have narrowed it down already to a specific problem, which is data problem or quality of data. So data quality. So we have covered all these three reasons why the data governance engagements may fail, and we are not going to do them. Right? We are making sure that we don't fall into any of those top three reasons. And yeah, let's see what we can do in these 4 weeks. The first week, as we said, identify the burning problem, talk to the executive sponsor, get their buy-in. So if it is a burning problem, definitely they would be dying to solve that problem, right? So pick up such a kind of problem so that you can get a buy-in. So this buy-in is not for the whole full-blown data governance, right? You will be spending a couple $1,000 in terms of the time, right? So the data steward might be spending like 4 hours a week. A custodian, or you might need a data engineer, they might be spending 8 hours a week. And you get a buy-in from your executive sponsor to help you like an hour a week or 2 hours a week. So whichever works best for your problem statement. There is no hard and fast rule that these many hours they have to spend, but you will spend very limited time so that the budget will be very less and you'll get a buy-in very easily. But the problem it should be a burning problem, not just a small problem who doesn't care. People doesn't care. Pick up such a problem. And I have seen some CXOs and senior leadership in this webinar. So if you are the decision maker or you are the executive sponsor, just twist it. You identify a team, a tiger team, bring them in, give them the burning problem you have, and ask them to solve within this 4-week framework what we are putting together today. So enable them and help them strategize and let them run with it, and then bring out that first data win you wanted to see. So either way, so if you are the decision maker, you do that. If you need to go to some other executive and get a buy-in, understand the core problem. And the next week, here you go much deeper and identify the data stewards and also the team who is going to work on the ground. So the team is ready. You go deeper, and if you see, this is very important. Map the data journey, right? So for this, don't get tempted. There are tools which does the data lineage. This is not the time where you bring in those tools. Take a whiteboard, white paper, draw a data map where the data starts and also where it goes, what kind of transformations or steps it is going until it is being used in whatever the fashion. And then another important thing is, this is a technical term. I would define that critical data element, right? Let's take a very simple example so that everyone understands. If your company is into email marketing, so the primary thing your company does is sending emails to leads or customers. So it's very crucial for your business. Let's just say you have a lead database and a customer database, and with missing email IDs. That's a very critical data element. Without that, your business doesn't move forward. So that's one example of critical data element. So identify such critical data elements. I said 5 to 7. Don't stick to this number. It could be 3 to 4, 1 to 2, whichever works for you. Just pick up those critical data elements. So for our example, I said it's a customer or a lead's email ID. So let's just say for every 100 customers or leads, you have only data for 60 email IDs for 60 customers, and 40 are missing, whatever may be the reason. So here what the map, the data journey, the map of the data journey, what it tells you is, where are you bringing that email IDs from? You could be bringing from 20, 30 different sources. Let's just say you have HubSpot, you are bringing from that your CRM system, and you have Salesforce, you are bringing some data from there, probably from LinkedIn, from other internet sources, or maybe your marketing team makes some calls and key in some information. So there could be several ways your lead and customer data is populated, and you are seeing a 40% of missing data. So the data is incomplete. So now this is the core problem we have identified, and then define what good looks like. So the good is, for every lead and every customer, you should have an email ID. It should not be missing, right? In similar way, in your case, you define your own good, what good means for those each of the critical data elements or data fields you identified, right? And now week 3 is all about implementation. This is the action. So you hit the ground and fix those issues. So to do that, you might need some collaboration tools. Obviously, you might be using Microsoft Teams or Slack. Create a channel, upload your Excel files there, whatever the things you are keeping track, your spreadsheets, or if you have Jira, use that. Azure DevOps, use that. Or if you have any advanced tools, please go ahead and use them. And one of the key things here is the baseline data profiling, right? So again, going back to the simple example, what we took, the missing email IDs, right? Customer email ID. So if you run this profiling, what we will identify is, you have data completeness of 60%, because for every 100 customer or lead data you have, only 60 of them has email ID, and rest all 40, it's blank, you don't have it. So that's your baseline. This is where you started. Because after this Third week, you need to measure from 60% where did you bring this completeness to what percentage. So you have to show that progress, right? So again, this is our example, but in your case, whatever the good you are talking about, create some KPIs out of that and try to achieve them. And you create simple issue log, right? In our case, for example, we said there are 30 different sources from where you are bringing lead and customer data, from where you need to get the email IDs as well, and they are missing. So if you do some simple data analysis, you might be getting most of your data from your CRM system, like HubSpot or maybe Salesforce. So that's your top. Number two comes from, let's just say, LinkedIn. And top three, maybe some other tool from the web. So if you solve these three, probably your completeness of data may rise from 60% to 80%, probably, let's just say. So just focus on only these three, the top three avenues from where you are bringing this customer data or lead data. And don't focus on all 30. We'll deal with that later. So that is what you do here, and then start fixing them. You take help of your tech savvy IT people, or if they are not so tech savvy, you need to bring in any data engineer who can work with SQL or your any BI tools you have currently you are using. And then once you fix that, the week 4 is about measuring and celebrating, right? So once you fix those three avenues, made sure that you are getting the data, so you would have increased your the metric, the completeness of your data from 60% to, let's just say, even if you don't hit 80, it could be 75, which is a good win. If you hit 90, that's great. So the number may vary, but you should have seen some progress. If you can turn this progress into a dollar number, that will be really good. See the effort what you spent in terms of hours, if you can convert it into $1 amount, that's your investment. It should be less than 5 or less than 10K, in my opinion. And if you are increasing the completeness of customer data, which is the email ID, from by 20%. So if you make a calculation, if you have 100,000 records, and let's just say you manage to get 10,000 more email IDs after this sprint. What is your conversion rate if you make 10,000 calls? How many customers would you convert? And then what is the average business you get from each customer? So it's a simple math. You don't need to bring out an exact number, but bringing a dollar figure will help you to get a buy-in, right? So once you do this math, just show what is your investment and what is that you have achieved. If it didn't happen, or if it is not at the level where you want to be, you can repeat the same thing. But if you pick up the right problem, I think you should see a good win within this 4-week sprint. So once you see the good win, create a one-page summary, socialize it, send it to your the executive sponsors, and also make the heroes out of your stewards, because they need a pat on their back. However, you can take care of your employees, you need to take care of these stewards, because once you show them as heroes, right, so they'll be willing to work on upcoming things. They can keep doing the same thing, and also this will instill some confidence in them, and also this will help you bring more people into this, and then you can slowly expand this at an organization level. First cross BU, and then eventually you can increase this across the organization. So yeah, finally present this to your sponsor and stakeholders. The whole thing should happen within the 30-day cycle, the 4 weeks. So now when you're running this, just always keep that in mind, that the top 3 things why data governance engagements fail. So don't step on them. And also keep an eye on for these signals, right? These are the success indicators. Are you on track while you are running this 4 week sprint? So this tells you, are you on track or not? So let's take a look at this, the case study. So this is a case study what I'm talking about. We helped a healthcare customer who are into care management. So they have some budgeting issues. They think that they are over budgeting and they don't know why their budgets are not matching. The core problem, what they thought is they are doing a wrong budgeting. But once we dive in, we found out the right problem. So before we did that, the engagement what we had is we did a consulting for them to build a data platform, and then we suggested them data governance. What they said is, if you can solve this core problem we have, this problem, let's talk about data governance engagement. So we have something called impact now. Typically, before getting into a full-blown implementations, the impact now is about, we take a month or two, depending on the nature of the problem statement. We take a month or two, solve the problem, prove the customer that this can be done, because they don't end up spending huge money and then say, oh, this cannot be solved. So that's the whole point of this impact now engagement, what we do with customers. So within the first 1 month, we dig through the data. What we identified is they had bad data, they have members who needs care, and they have carers. So they are assuming wrong number of members and lining up a lot of carers to handle them and spending a lot of money and then not being paid because those many members doesn't turn up, because there are not those many members. So let's just say they assume they have 1000 members to provide care management, but there are only 800 because they are getting wrong data from the state. So there is something called disenrollment. So that data element is empty, and customer was thinking that because it's empty, the members are still active. Once we dig into the data, what we understood is there are several other data elements what we need to consider, and ultimately we clean the data and finally help them pick up the right number of the members that they need to consider, which ultimately solve their budgeting problem. But actually, it's not a budgeting problem. They are doing budgeting, but the data is wrong. And I can't tell you the exact number, but they saved a lot of money, which means they can use that money somewhere else. So they can divert that amount what they over budgeted for something else which is more meaningful for the business. So it's a very good use case, and I don't think that this miracle can happen for you, but this is a miracle for this customer. It's close to several thousands of dollars. So that's a just with that, we signed a contract with them and helped them implement data governance for their a key domain, a data domain. And then we are about to extend that data governance for 6 more domains, which will start very soon. That engagement will start very soon. And I think we are running out of time. So what do we do after 30 days? Just build a habit, rinse and repeat. You keep doing that for extend that to, if you picked up a handful of key data elements or critical data elements, extend that. If you fixed one report, broken report, take another report. Or if you are very confident, extend this to one business domain you have, and then formalize the roles, right? So by this time, everyone would have understood how this whole game works. So start creating some concrete roles and responsibilities, create a charter out of that, and then introduce strategic tooling now. And again, when I say strategic tooling, don't go for full-blown data governance tools at this point of time. Slowly start automating things. For example, if you have a Python programmer at your disposal, what you can do is just ask them every day, create a script every day, run it at the beginning of the day, see what customer email IDs are missing, create a report out of that, send that spreadsheet to your marketing team or sales team. They make calls to those customers and get their email IDs. So this is some kind of automation you can put together. So this is the kind of tools you need to start slowly adding up. And then finally, If you want to understand or have a glimpse of what it means from a 30-day engagement to enterprise-wide implementation of data governance, this is how it looks like. Again, don't stick to these numbers. 1 to 3 months. It could be 1 to 6 months for some customers. This could be 6 to 12 months for some customers. So it may change, but on an average, this is how it looks like. So the first phase, if you divide them into 4 phases, you can focus on metrics improvement and then cross-domain consistency, then self-service, right? The self-service analytics where without you getting involved, people who are in need of data, they should be able to automatically request to get the data, use it, and then dispose it. So self-service analytics. And then finally, data as a product. So what I meant by data as a product is a product you can sell and make money, right? So your data should be sellable. That's what this is the very mature state of data governance and data platforms. So these are the 4 phases, how they look like. Sorry, we had to rush. We are running out of time, or maybe ran out of time. So these are the key takeaways. Start with a small business pain, and then pick up a minimum viable domain, or it could be one report. Get some quick wins so that you can get a buy-in. Empower your people, make them accountable, and then start celebrating your wins so that you can create momentum and start creating much more bigger impacts. And don't forget to measure your impacts. That's very important to get the buy-ins. So call for action, I would say, once you get out of this webinar, just pull up that one report that everyone in your organization complains about. Start from there. That's a very good start, in my opinion.